need another heavy. I've got TB and a quick draw.
I want to get fairly tight to it. Now, anybody who's going to be working range, I'm going to need you to fade right on this. If anybody's running short, we're just going to stay towards the top of the call there if we're going to come at them.
I have you in the Griff. Griffin.
Sounds good.
Well, that's the thing. We got to get to brawling range, so I may be moving us, right up to the hoop if we have to.
Wolverine nach Charlie 4.
It's fine, chill the out, man, it's fine, it's just a 5-starter.
Komm Leute, redet miteinander.
15 seconds.
Yeah, exactly,
Don't die.
guys,
15 seconds, don't die.
guys. 3, 2, 1.
Charlie Dar, CT, yellow. Okay, go for Charlie, see if we can get it.
There, to your left, there's there. Sorry, shoot. So, jetzt guys, hinter die Indie-Pocken.
Mediums be prepared to pull back E40 towards the E5 border. On my mark.
Left side, come on! Like now, I need strikes on OP barrel. Wire are strikes up.
Die Hauptgruppe rechts, Uferlinie.
They have three mechs sitting on the left side when you pass over.
Overheating is bad.
Both lights on the Griffin. Get the Griffin!
Woo! Sorry about that. That was such a
That's right. I'm gonna spawn Lance, you guys in Charlie, Lance, you guys in Bravo. That's B2C1.
This third drop is 2 lights, 2 mediums, 2 heavies, 2 assaults.
Jetzt in die Breite, zieht euch in die Breite.
Lights, watch our backs. We're gonna about base and take up position in Bravo 6.
Ja, kurz Aufschaltung, Delta 4, 3 Stück, 2 Mediums, ein Light, wie ich es richtig gesehen habe.
Make a firing line.
C4 Tactical Hill, boys.
Fox.
Lauft unter ECM, hab 2 durchlaufen, 10, Bravo 4.
And get ready to hit people coming from our right.
Charlie on the left, Charlie, Hellbringer on the left.
Okay, let's group up towards the left. We're gonna press through Bravo 3 to Bravo 4. I think they're kind of spread out.
Check yourselves, make sure you've got, UAV cool shot.
Here they come, they're pushing hard, guys.
Decro. Tez on.
Go. Oh, got a contact here, Bravo 3.
Nice, Marshall. I'm on Delta Griffin.
Well, if you cross it then, get in their face. They got a highlighter, they just push up on Theta. We need help on Theta. Up on Theta. Yep, that's the noise. Go. Let's finish this. Full pressure, guys. Full pressure. They're down low. They're down low in Charlie 3. Get the fucking arm, Jackson.
Jackson, cool shot.
Cough. I got him.
Okay, go, P3, go. Echo, go.
Get over on your medium, guys. Get Echo Stormcrow. God, I suck as a pilot, but thank I packed my skill. I'm sorry that you died, sweet girls, but we will send a reasonably nice letter to your family. To the paper doll. Make sure you guys are shooting the correct legs. Be careful of the collisions. I don't want to hear complaints about it. Work around it. Let's play this game.
I need another heavy. I've got TB and a quick draw.
I want to get fairly tight to it. Now, anybody who's going to be working range, I'm going to need you to fade right on this. If anybody's running short, we're just going to stay towards the top of the call there if we're going to come at them.
I have you in the Griff. Griffin.
Sounds good.
Well, that's the thing. We got to get to brawling range, so I may be moving us, right up to the hoop if we have to.
Wolverine nach Charlie 4.
It's fine, chill the out, man, it's fine, it's just a 5-starter.
Komm Leute, redet miteinander.
15 seconds.
Yeah, exactly,
Don't die.
guys,
15 seconds, don't die.
guys. 3, 2, 1.
Charlie Dar, CT, yellow.
Okay, go get your see if you can get a Dire. To your left, there's a... Sorry, Richard. So, jetzt gleich hinter die Indie-Pockets,
Mediums be prepared to pull back E40 towards the E5 border. On my mark.
Left side, come on! Like now, I need strikes on empty barrel. Wire or strikes up. Die Hauptgruppe rechts, Uferlinie. They have 3 mechs sitting on the left side when you pass over.
Overheating is bad.
Both legs on the Griffin. Get the Griffin. Woo! Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. That was such a
That's right. I'm gonna spawn Lance, you guys, and Charlie.
This is Red 1 to Night Scorn HQ. My insertion was successful. I'm seeing lots of industry, but the volcanic atmosphere is playing hell with my sensors. No sign of enemy mechs. Wait, I saw something. In the name of the Great Dragon, are you seeing this, HQ? Sending up a UAV. Who are these people? What is this? Shit! HQ, I've been sighted. I need immediate extraction. Transmitting coordinates now.
Pardon, but the Mad Yar requests you stay.
No.
Rise, fell-fanged heroes. Rise, dark shadows of the past. Rise, old gods in your slumbering chambers and your chariots of death. Rise, we call upon you. The ISEN needs your guidance. Armus Heimdall, Odin, Thor, come forth. Prepare us, bless us, sanctify us in the blood of our enemies, that they might be destroyed. They thought we were defeated. They thought they had won. The gaping void calls for the flesh of the fallen. But we refuse the summons. We are not done. This is only the beginning.
Greetings, Mech Warriors. You are at the New Year in the Inner Sphere Exhibition Series, Match 2, Isengrim versus Night Scorn. This should be a very good match. I've been excited about this one for quite some time. Both of these teams had clashed before in the MRBC Division C Finals, and it was quite the match. I would say probably one of the most fun shoutcasts I've ever participated in, and no doubt setting this up, I knew that this is going to be another great match, and I really hope to bring that to you guys, and hopefully it's just as exciting, and we'll see what happens. I am Bandit B17 from the Marine Mechs, and with me is MDM00, also from the Marine Mechs. Once again, just a little precursor. If I'm having any audio level issues or anything like that, please let me know in chat as soon as you can. There is a delay to the stream, so it might take us a little bit to receive that information and react upon it, but your feedback is always valued. Make sure you get that into chat, and our mods will pass that along to me if I don't catch it. Teams are forming and getting into their lobbies already, so I'm going to get started on showing you guys the teams here. Our home team today is Isengrim, and we've seen these guys a few times in the past. Mech the Dane, who is the leader, He actually helped produce the video that you saw at the end there. That was their little promo video that they set up for this specific match, and he does a lot of really fun videos like that. So that was entertaining to say the least. Definitely quite a character, but he's gathered his guys together, and they are going to be fighting for us in a 12v12 fashion instead of an 8v8, as we saw the last time with them. This is really going to be a good test of their depth and the depth of Night Scorn. Adding an extra 4 players to a team isn't easy. You're really digging into what you have available, and it'll be interesting to see who can rally those guys together and use them to the best of their ability. Their opponent today is Knight's Scorn. So switch over to them. These guys ended up winning Division C. It was a very close match. It was super exciting, but they ended up squeezing it out and managed to take first place in Division C. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of good stuff out of these guys. They seem to be relatively new to the MechWarrior scene, but they have definitely shown that they've got what it takes to be here. So this is definitely going to be a team to watch. I think that everybody should know Night Scorn, know their name, and watch to see what they can do going forward, especially entering into some of the new league seasons that are starting up here. We're getting close. This exhibition series was kind of meant to fill the gap between Christmas season and when the actual competitive leagues started up, and we're getting there, and I'm kind of buzzing with excitement, seeing all the chatter about the PGI tournament, the chatter about NBT, the chatter about the Mercstar Invitational, which is going to be starting up early February. And then, of course, MRBC Season 7, which is going to be starting up. And all of these really great competitive environments that are very strong in the MWO community. And, I can't wait to start seeing some of these matches being played and see what these guys can bring to the table. And it's going to be really exciting. So, the Mercstar Invitational is going to be a 12v12 format, which we have been showcasing here. So if you like having those bigger battles, that's going to be a great thing to watch, because it has that same 24 player aspect to it. And then we've got MRBC, which is 8v8s, and that's what I've played mostly. And that's a great league, especially as a starting team, because it's divisional tiered. So when you join as a fresh team, you can start at the bottom and work your way up and learn as you go. And that's what my team did, and it was a fantastic experience. So, and then having the 8v8s makes it a lot more accessible because it's easier to field enough players and stuff. NBT, of course, is another fantastic league, especially for the people who like having a reason to fight beyond just doing it for the victory. You have mech inventories and things like that, as you lose mechs in the game, not in MechWarrior, but in NBT, and you have to maintain that inventory and try to fight people to gain more inventory. It's kind of like Risk in Space. It's super fun. And so I'm definitely looking forward to that season starting up too. And then, of course, the PGI Cash Tournament. That's going to be some interesting stuff to see. We don't know very much details about it yet. We don't know, is it going to be 12v12s even? We don't know, but we're all watching, and everybody's, on the tips of their toes waiting to hear what we're going to be up against with that tournament. So, we have a little bit of a different rule set. If you guys joined us for our first exhibition series, we have switched some of the rules based on some of the feedback that we got in the last one. We dropped our tonnage drops down to 600 from 700, so it's going to make it a little bit lighter. We still have the 3333 drops in there. And then drop 5 is no longer a unlimited tonnage drop, which was kind of a little bit of a joke. We're going to take it seriously this time, though, and it's going to be a 4422 drop. So we're going to go into that and see all 5 drops, what these guys can do. But with that said, We are headed into our first drop. So good luck to both teams.
Yeah, here we go. Canyon Network Conquest. So we've been showcasing, rather than the traditional skirmish game mode, some conquest games. I think we've been finding, at least with our first match that we did for this exhibition series, that the conquest mode really gives a little bit of different strategies to the game. It forces the enemy team to consider some different things, or forces both teams, I should say, to consider some different things, making sure you stay either ahead or at least close on cap points and things like that. You can't just camp a position and then you'll lose by capping. So it does make things a little more interesting, I think.
I seem to be having some technical difficulties.
All right, well, I'll take over there then. Just taking a look at some of the teams here, we're seeing a lot of quick draws. Obviously, very popular mech right now. Blackjacks, etc. Some executioners here for NS. It's kind of an interesting choice there, whereas I see some Banshee 3Ms for Isengrim. So let's see how that kind of works out differently. Taking a peek into Poneface here and the executioner for NS. He has large pulses and medium lasers. He's actually taking a little bit more fire, I think, than he wanted at the initial trade there. And actually, Mexecutioner down in the fire starter. Let's take a look at him. He is down to 70-some% now. Already lost an arm off of his fire starter, but he didn't have any weapons on it. It's a little bit of an unusual build to see. Taking a look at the positioning, though, NS is kind of grouped up near Gamma, kind of back towards the original spawn point, whereas Isengrim's kind of got two fights going here. They've got 4 mechs flanking over by Kappa. Looks like some quick draws, and Blackjack's a little bit of a faster lance, and the majority of their team is posting up at Epsilon and just firing down this line here. Looks like the back spawn line by the bridge is the primary engagement, but this lance for Isengrim pushing up the side, this fast lance, might be a difference maker at this point.
Once again, sorry for the technical difficulties, guys. My 360 controller refused to react to the sticks. I have a feeling this was directly in relation to some efforts I was making to optimize the whole controller aspect of things, and so I'm going to see if I can fix this. Guess not. So we're going to be doing some cockpit views.
Man, I tell you what, Nightscorn is in danger. They just lost a quick draw here, and they are in a dangerous position. They are down low. They lost another quick draw. Isengrim has pushed up all the way along the rim. They are just standing on the top canyon here, just pummeling Nightscorn. They're already down 3-0 at Executioner, a quick draw and another quick draw down for Nightscorn. 2 weakened mechs, 3 weakened mechs now for Isengrim, but Nightscorn desperately has to do something at this point. I mean, Isengrim is literally lined up along this canyon, just firing down into them with abandon. You know, they've got such an advantage here with the terrain. They're trying to push one end, it looks like, and they might be able to do so, but Isengrim is providing the right counter to that by moving down the canyon towards them and kind of reinforcing those guys at the end. They've lost now another 2 mechs. It is 5-0 in favor of Isengrim at this point. And this is not going well for Nightscorn. Another goes down 6-0. And the first Isengrim mech goes down. They managed to push the Blackjack holding the end of the line for Isengrim, but at this point I think it's a little too late. They are just stuck in this canyon here and getting pummeled. They did get another mech down for Isengrim, but right now they've only got 5 mechs standing. They've already lost 7 mechs, and they are just in a terrible position down below in the canyon.
You know, one thing that's interesting to note is neither team went for Theta on this. It looks to me like Isengrim just immediately went hard into the skirmish, essentially.
Yeah, they went down that Charlie line there. There's only 3 mechs now, 2 mechs for Nightscorn. This is going to wind up being most likely a 12-2 decision. And we'll talk a little bit about the strategies after we kind of recap this. It's just 1 fire starter left here for Nightscorn. But I think Nightscorn played a very static game mode, and Isengrim did not. And clearly with a 12-2 decision there in the first 4 minutes of the game, I mean, that's a fast game. Isengrim takes round 1.
Okay, well, I tried to get a little bit of the first-person view there, but what I think I'm going to do is immediately jump into your replay and give people a view of what you were seeing there while I try to restart my client and fix what's going on here.
Just going to take a quick peek here at the team stats. It looks like Odin Steed carried the weight there. 646 damage, 3 kills, 8 assists for a match score of 429 for Isengrim. And for Night Scorn, they got 2 500 damage guys. So some guys did a decent job here. Gas Guzzler and the Executioner, and Jamie for Red in the Quick Draw. That's interesting to see an Executioner kind of be brought into this situation and actually did the best for Night Scorn on their team. So not necessarily what you might think of as a ranged mech, but clearly they were able to do some damage with it.
Cool, so just so you know, so you can kind of follow along, I'm at negative 1 minute 55 seconds on your replay right now. They just started in the replay if you want to kind of talk about what was going on there. I'm going to restart my game client.
Now I gotta get to my replay. So I want to talk a little bit about that opening strategy. Night Scorn very much pulled themselves back in line. They pulled into kind of the original. When you think of skirmish on Canyon Network, the side that Night Scorn dropped on with that bridge, they pulled along that first line of canyons, and gosh darn it if I can't remember what map points that is, but that first line of that back line of canyons before Theta, and they kind of were all lined up there. And on the other hand, Isengrim was very, very aggressive. Rather than trying to regroup, they sent, I believe it was 3 blackjacks and a quick draw down one side of the canyon, and then the complete other side of the map basically had the rest of their team advancing hard up that canyon. And when it came down to it, I think Isengrim was able to get kind of a cross firing line where a lot of the hills on the top level of canyon kind of provide cover from one direction, but maybe not in 2 different directions. And it definitely felt to me like Isengrim was able to force Night Scorn off of the top canyon simply by having essentially a 90-degree separation between their firing angles, and just basically Night Scorn couldn't peek around corners because they were just getting popped by either the blackjacks and the quick draw, or they were getting popped by the rest of Isengrim's team, and that pushed them back. And as soon as they pushed back, Isengrim did the right thing, which is to push right up on top of them, keep them down in the canyon, and just at that point Night Scorn was sitting ducks. I mean, they were trying to fight uphill against guys that could peek and use the canyon wall themselves as cover, and that's just not a winning proposition at all.
Alright, I think I have my technical difficulties taken care of. I had to basically reset my controller settings across the board and then restart the client. Apparently, what you set in your keybinds and things like that does not take effect until you save and fully close the client and reopen it. And so all the things that I was doing that didn't seem like they were working before ended up suddenly working, and in that case, working even worse. So, hopefully everything will be back to normal here. Just get re-invite.
Actually, Bandit, I think you've been replaced by Mech the Dane in spectator mode, so sorry. He's going to spend the rest of the stream singing his Isengrim Viking songs. Space Viking songs.
Oh, you know what? I've got one of them Space Viking songs while I wait for an invite here.
God, we don't actually want to listen to that.
You're going to listen to it and you're going to like it.
So yeah, I want to point out what Twinkie just said in the chat there. On Canyon, that low ground is brutal. And he's right. You cannot play the low ground on Canyon, at least not against a poke deck. Maybe, and we've seen this happen before, if you're running a fast jump jet deck and you're doing brawlers, you use the canyons to basically give yourself cover, jump over the canyon wall, and smash into a ranged deck. But you got to stay up high on range. You can't. As soon as you drop down, you lose your firing line. You lose the ability to sort of prevent or dictate what the enemy team does, and instead you're basically stuck waiting for the enemy team to come to you. It's really a tough situation to be in.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, that was certainly an interesting, and I guess I wouldn't say I could have predicted the outcome of that one from the very start, just from what we've seen from these teams in the past. But, Canyon Network is a very picky map. Mm-hmm. If you make a mistake on Canyon Network, it's very easy to take advantage of it, and maintaining the high ground really is important. And I think in our first matchup with Nightscorn and ISEN, we saw both teams holding the high ground equally and trading at distance, and a lot of rotation and things like that taking place. But really, what we saw here is almost an immediate fallback of Nightscorn into that lower field, and it's very easy for Isengrim mechs then to play that whack-a-mole and just start dropping mechs left and right from the cover. That it's not just cover, but it's like a surrounding cover, because you can go all across the map on that high ground and surround them and hit them from multiple angles. And we've seen power position versus whack-a-mole in the past at long ranges. That's fine, because you've got your pack of mechs that can coordinate all their fire on a single target from distance. But in something like this, it's very hard to maintain that while you're down below, because you have to look 180 degrees almost to see who's peeking and shoot them and take advantage of it. And the output never seems to match the the reception of damage in those situations. So
yeah, and the other part of that, you're right. At range, if you even think of just at range, your field of view is so much essentially bigger. You can see mechs kind of spread out because they're farther away. On that drop, I mean, by the end of that match, and really at that point, maybe Isengrim, I think by the time they were already up 2 kills, they were standing along the entire length of one canyon wall, shooting down into Nightscorn. There's no way you can do any sort of whack-a-mole thing, because you've got mechs essentially shooting you in the back while you're staring at guys in the front. I mean, at that point, they were essentially, for all intents and purposes, surrounded and on the low ground, and it was just, unfortunately, the only strategy you can have for that is don't let yourself get in that position.
Absolutely.
As soon as it happens, you're in trouble.
So going into the next map, we're moving into River City. We are going to our first tonnage drop, and at 600 tons, a little bit lighter than last time. But it'll be interesting to see what they do on River City now that they can essentially pick some of the lighter mechs to get the mechs that they want. And we'll probably see a lot of duplicate mechs down there. Let's go take a look. Please, controller work as intended.
That's what happens when you try and play MWO with the joystick, Bandit. You need 2 joysticks.
I do have 2 joysticks. It's an Xbox 360 controller. Alright, let's take a look. Yay, it's working, thank God. Alright. Let's hit all the crazy buttons. I don't want that. Why is it doing that? Whoa. Alright.
Take a look at the teams here. Looking at Isengrim, seeing a lot of surprise large pulse lasers. In fact, I'm seeing almost nothing but large pulse lasers, except for a couple large lasers for some variety here from Isengrim.
Yeah, and over on the Nightscorn side, we've got Blackjack 1X, Blackjack 1X, Blackjack 1X, Blackjack 1X.
This looks more like a brawl deck for Nightscorn. I see a lot of small pulse boats. Blackjack 1X with the medium laser, medium pulse builds, very popular. These Stormcrows are running small pulse laser builds. This ought to be really interesting.
So we've got an immediate taking of Epsilon, of course, and now they're going to start working their way down Theta. I did not see an immediate rush to Theta from either team. So I believe Night Scorn will actually be able to get a decent overwatch over Theta before Isengrim is able to get up to it. Let me fix
Isengrim seems a little bit slow to respond. Night Scorn is already in the water here, and I'm not sure if Isengrim has eyes on them yet because they are going now to the right side of Theta. They're going to be able to see Night Scorn as they come into the water here. Let's jump into their cockpit and see if anyone's got eyes on them. And yeah, UCR Star Wars is already firing on the enemy, but at this point, Night Scorn is already almost on top of these guys.
Yeah, that is a massive murder ball coming around here. Lots of fire coming in from them. They're going to get into the city very quick. Isengrim mechs are starting to back into each other. It's tough to get your shots in when everybody's standing in a straight line, so that's not going to be too good for Eisen. They need to do something. They have actually pushed out to where Night Scorn just was, trying to NASCAR around, but in the process, they're leaving a couple of their mechs behind. But they're just trying to get something working for them here, but everybody's
and they've
crammed
got a
in
blackjack
so tight
here.
right now.
They've now managed to get 2 mechs down. One of the blackjacks got left behind, and he was dealt with very quickly.
Yep, and so now Isengrim is backing out into the water, trying to maintain distance. Night Scorn is starting to charge up, but 2 Isengrim mechs get caught up against the wall. They are now being left behind, and they will be dispatched relatively quickly. That's 3 down, about to be 4 down for Isengrim. 1 is down for Night Scorn, but hopefully those 2 deaths bought them some time, but it doesn't look like that's the case. They're bringing in their small pulse and medium pulse back into range immediately. Another blackjack does go down for Night Scorn, but another Isengrim mech does go down. They're moving as a murder ball pack, and they're doing it quite well. This is definitely a very coordinated brawl. Mechs are dying on both sides, but definitely more in favor of Night Scorn.
Yeah, at this point, it's definitely in favor of Night Scorn, and Isengrim just can't focus fire in this sort of situation. And unfortunately, it looks like Odin Steed might have killed himself by overheating. That's definitely not a good thing in this sort of situation.
So just to what I was seeing at the beginning there, I believe Isengrim might have moved to take Kappa as a group at the beginning, but I didn't see any of their guys doing any sort of overwatch. Both teams opted to take all mediums, so there's no lights, no scouting whatsoever. They used their bodies to scout, and I almost think that Night Scorn was almost counting on that, in that their movement was completely obscured until Isengrim got up to the Citadel, and by then it was too late. Yep. You know, if Isengrim had some sort of scouting out there at the beginning, or maybe somebody immediately dropping into Theta to take it, or something like that, I think Isengrim might have been able to, at the very least, get into a better position. But as it stands, they had no idea that Night Scorn was charging right around Citadel, directly into them, until it was too late. And by that token, I mean, they didn't have a firing line set up. We saw mechs crammed into each other, just in a desperate attempt to either retreat or get shots on target, and they just couldn't shoot fast enough. And the Night Scorn charge line was very well spread out. It was in a nice little like V or echelon formation, probably unintentional, just natural instinct by the pilots. And, you know, they were able to just use all of their weapons right off the bat.
Yeah, and you're right. I think not having Overwatch really costs them, and I honestly was kind of surprised at that. It definitely felt like Isengrim just took a while to get to Citadel. I mean, as much as you hate to say it, some features on various maps are very common to move towards. Some movements, especially initial movements, are very predictable. Going to Citadel on River City is like, you know, it's certainly something that can get pretty well programmed into your muscle memory. And I don't necessarily even think Night Scorn was full speed ahead the whole time. They took the time to cap. They took the time to group up and move as a group. Not that it took them that long, but it wasn't like they were just pedal to the metal the whole way there. But Isengrim just had no idea that was coming until it was far too late. And, you know, it was a good strategy to cut back across, get back out in the water to try and get some advantage. But that's just, you know, that's not enough. Not enough against that sort of deck with that sort of opening movement.
I'm showing your stream right now. Night Scorn is just entering water, and then you're swooping over to take a look at where where Isengrim is, and maybe I still don't even think they see him coming at this point. Maybe that guy on the left side had a view of him, but okay, now they know they're coming, and it's like right there. Holy shit! Like, here they come. Everybody start backing up. Keep firing, and you probably won't be able to see. My perspective was just blue mech after blue mech just rear-ending each other. It was panic. Clearly it was panic. And that kind of panic can be avoided when you have that information before they get into their optimal weapon range.
Yeah.
And that, I just can't stress it enough how important scouts are in that situation. Like, having at least one guy looking out for you on the front lines, I think that could have made a world of difference in this situation.
Well, I mean, look at it this way. At least from what I could tell spectating, Isengrim had no idea what they were up against until Night Scorn, starting from the other side of the map, had already reached the edge of the Citadel. And by that point against a Brawl deck, especially a small pulse stacked Brawl deck, it's too late. You've already put yourself in a terrible situation. Yeah, I agree with you. I would have liked to have seen Isengrim even just put one mech out as a scout. Clearly, I think they would have liked that now that they know what happened when they didn't. But a good job by Night Scorn, staying together, moving as a group, moving with the plan, and also keeping the pressure on. When Isengrim tried to react back out in the water, it wasn't like Night Scorn, well, let's kind of rethink this. No, it was keep going right back into them and maintain that advantage. So they even it up 1-1.
Absolutely. And, I think this is kind of a good example of why, personally, I'm not a huge fan of tonnage drops. Seeing so many Blackjack 1Xs, which is very safe to say right now that is the top team, or top mech, medium mech in the game right now. And the structure quirks on that are so powerful that, it's a very, very dangerous mech. It was always a glass cannon, but now they gave it massive structure quirks. You put those things into a brawl, and they can live through it. They're tanky as hell now. And they're able to go in there in a brawl and just survive everything. And I believe they paired that with some Stormcrows and stuff like that.
It was 4
and that's just a
Stormcrows,
brutal
8 Blackjacks
combination.
Versus, I believe, 3 Hellbringers.
It was actually 6 Stormcrows and 6 Blackjacks.
6 and 6. Okay, sorry.
And now they opted for the 1X variant, while Eisen took the BJ3s. It probably, I would say, large pulse, most likely, with the BJ3s.
Yeah,
and some Hellbringers.
Yep. So we
and
saw
in this case, though, they
3 different chassis.
They got well inside the large pulse optimal range and brought it into the medium laser, medium pulse range, and just the alpha strikes on those are brutal as hell, and that hurts big time.
Yeah, and I agree with you. That's one of the reasons why I personally enjoy some of the other competitive leagues like MRBC. Mm-hmm. With the way that the meta goes and the wheel of viability turning on what mechs are top tier and not, you get a match like this. I mean, we saw Blackjacks, we saw Stormcrows, we saw Hellbringers, and that's it. Out of 24 mechs, that's, I'm not faulting the two teams. They went with what's best for them and what's best in the game right now. But it would be nice, I think, to see a little more variety, even just in what the top tier meta is, what the best mechs in the game are. But certainly you can't argue against bringing just a ton of Blackjacks at 45 tons with that sort of structure and that sort of firepower. You'd be crazy not to.
Absolutely. And, this is one of the things that draw people to leagues like MRBC who like variety, because they're essentially forcing you to bring more than just what the best mech of the game is. Now you can bring a combination of the best mechs in the game, but at least then you still see some different mechs and stuff like that. So, but you know what? That's the thing, though, is having a lot of the same mech like this, well, it can be a little bit more boring to watch. Then it really comes down to, okay, who picked the better deck, and who, how well do they execute? And that's what we saw here, is both of them had very strong mechs.
Yep.
It was an execution issue, and I think that you can't stress that enough, is they didn't have the information they needed. they got rolled up on into a Brawl deck's optimal range when they didn't want to be, and they paid for it. Bottom line.
Not only that, but making the blackjacks the most powerful mech in the game does give the opportunity for chat to have a little bit of fun with it. So
yeah, and it's at the top of our screen for a reason, gentlemen.
There you go.
So you might have noticed that the teams have switched. I am seeing that Isengrim is now going to be Team 2 for this next drop. According to the rules that we have put forward, the team that loses get to choose their side for the next match, and Isengrim is choosing Team 2 for Frozen City Night. And so I have made that change on my overlay to attempt to keep the correct teams on the correct side, and hopefully that makes it a lot easier to follow along. But with that said, we are going back to the 3-3-3-3 decks, so we're not going to see 6 Stormcrows and 6 Blackjacks in this one. But we are going to Frozen City Night, which is traditionally a very brawly map. What do you think we're going to see here with a 3-3-3-3?
I think we're going to see a brawl. It's the wheel of viability has spun, and it has landed on Blackjacks. And those structure bonuses, combined with the firepower that they've kind of always had, it's hard to say anything other than brawl, because you just can get within range and still have enough armor left over and enough structure left over to do some wicked amount of damage compared to the long range weaponry.
All right, so we're hopping here right off the bat. Let's take a look at what we got to work with. That tab gets me every time. Alright, so I am seeing a lot of Atlases.
Yeah, I'm seeing
and
some big mechs here.
3 Atlas S's. I'm seeing a Timber C with small pulse SRMs. This is on the Isengrim side of things. That's going to be one hell of a brawl right there. So let's
and I'm
see
seeing some Dire Wolves, Atlases, Black Knights. I am really interested to see how these Black Knights do in a competitive situation. I'm hearing a lot about them.
Oxides. They're bringing some Oxides on the Isengrim side. We're going to see a lot of SRMs flying around here. They're going immediately for their Epsilon cap, and it looks like their light mechs are starting to scout and take a look. There is one Nightscorn Firestarter down here in Lower City, but he hasn't seen anything yet. I think he's getting blipped now if he has radar depth, because I'm pretty sure somebody saw him, but he is verifying that nobody is Lower City, and that kind of slows things down a little bit. They don't have to worry about any immediate charges through Lower City, and while Isengrim kind of waits by dropship to see what they want to do next, and they're gathering information, Nightscorn can take their time to set up however they want. They don't have to worry about any massive charges over saddle or anything like that. So they're going to be able to set up, and we're going to see a little... Oh, but we are
here
seeing
come those Oxides
an initial movement with the Oxides.
Here.
They are way ahead of their main body, though. That is a ballsy move. They're moving in. They're putting their UAVs in. They're starting to launch their SRMs all over the place here. But I can't believe those guys are staying alive, running straight into main body like that. There was a ballsy Stormcrow came down at the bottom here, and I think he's going to pay for it. And he does go down. Chimmy goes down hard. The main body for Isengrim is just now reaching the fight after having already lost a mech. We'll see whether these Atlases can walk in here and start dealing some massive damage. We do have a big Atlas versus Atlas fight. Lots of AC-20 SRMs going around. And the Atlas for Nightscorn does go down. The Atlases are starting to swarm around. This is the definition of a murder ball. We do have another Nightscorn mech or two go down, and it is currently in favor of Isengrim. Whoa! Lots of mechs dying all at the same time here. These massive amounts of Brawl SRMs, they're just pounding into the Nightscorn mechs, and they're starting to get an advantage there. Nightscorn's starting to fall back, trying to use their DACA to suppress and take something out, but Isengrim is definitely doing a very good job at keeping their shots on a single target. Here we got the Black Knight running around. He's about to get slaughtered by everybody that's left over here. One Blackjack alone pretty much down in the backfield, just trying to shoot anything he can get his hands on, and they're going to get his attention. This is kind of splitting up Isengrim, though, and we're seeing a lot of those weaker Isengrim mechs start to fall. Splitting up like this might not be the best strategy at this point. They're getting into little 1v2s all across the board, and that could cost them. Down to 4, now 3 mechs for Isengrim, and Nightscorn is actually starting to take this back. That split up down to 2 now for Night Scorn. We got a 2v3 with extremely hurt mechs. The Blackjack 1X for Night Scorn is almost fresh. He could actually kill every single one of these mechs all by himself, and he is actually the last one left. 1v3, 93%. This guy could still win it all if he puts his shots on target. The Timber C Independent is going to be most likely the first one over. He's the freshest of all of them. Let's see if this guy can bring it back here. Good exchange there. Didn't cost him much. He got some decent damage down on that Timber. They know where he is, but
here's the problem with Independent leading the charge. Independent is actually out of ammo. He is running only 5 small pulse at this point. Mech the Dane is a stick. He is charging in. Odin Steed is really the difference maker here. If he can get that damage on, he still has SRMs available to him.
Honestly, I think this Blackjack can win it all. If he takes Odin Steed out, that's going to be a huge difference.
And he got him.
And that's going to be it. I mean, it may be a lucky laser shot or two, but I think this is going to go in favor of Night Scorn with only 1 mech remaining. Things were looking incredibly good for Isengrim there at the beginning, but when we... Oh, what the hell happened there?
He legs himself. Oh,
he
man.
He legged himself?
Oh... Going for the legs by Odin Steed worked. I cannot believe that.
I didn't even... Holy crap.
Ooh.
I hope you got the scoreboard, because I think MWO just crashed.
I got the scoreboard for you. Odin Steed, 5 kills, 5 assists, 913 damage in that Timberwolf. Next best was Poemface in the Direwolf B, 2 kills, 7 assists, 791 damage, 2 600-kill mechs for Night Scorn, a Black Knight, and Blackjack. That last Blackjack, Jamie for Red, did 1 kill, 7 assists, 610 damage. He was the second highest damage in the game there.
Okay, all right. Well, let's start here. I'm showing you replay now. Things are just starting. Key things here. Isengrim sent their Oxides in way before the rest of their team. Now, I don't know if this was supposed to be some sort of deception in Lower City to get them to start concentrating on Lower City while they pour over Saddle. If that's the case, the timing was not there. Those Oxides and a Stormcrow got completely wrecked in Lower City. The Oxides did a pretty good job keeping themselves alive for the most part, but the Stormcrow should not have been there, in my opinion. That's tough because, you know, you're putting a lot of tonnage and a lot of armor on the ground, dead, right off the bat, before you even have your main body taking a shot. The timing could definitely be cleaned up there a lot better. But once their main body reached, those Atlases tore shit up. It was really going heavily in favor of Isengrim. Now, they were taking a lot of hits, but not necessarily dying. I think what sealed the deal is we had the Blackjack out on one side, and we had like the Direwolf with the Doc on the other side, and we just saw Isengrim split up. They lost their focus. We saw them going every which way, just attacking anybody that they could. A lot of 1v2 fights, and when you do that, and you have a bunch of cored out people, you start seeing mechs dropping one by one, like in rapid succession. You know, in a 1v2 fight, when the guy can target the 2 people, pick out the most damaged one out of both, kill him, and then start working on the next guy and maybe even kill him, you just started seeing Isengrim mechs dropping like crazy. Down to a 1v3 in favor of Night Scorn, or in favor of Isengrim, but then Mech the Dane is sticked in his Nova, so he's effectively useless.
Yeah, it's 1v2.
You've got the Timberwolf, Odin Steed, who's got some SRMs, but then you got the other Timberwolf, I think that was Independent, who's got no ammo left and just got some small pulse he's working on. You know, the small pulses still do quite a bit of damage, but having no more ammunition on the SRMs against a fresh Blackjack, clearly, and I wasn't able to watch the individual components being damaged, but as you stated, yeah, that was a pretty fresh Blackjack, but all the damage dealt to that Blackjack was in the legs, and that's why it was such a surprise.
What we just saw on Twitch here, I'm just watching the Twitch since it's on stream delay, what we just saw is the last shot Odin got in was just a wicked alpha strike right to the legs.
And right as soon as he hits the ground.
As
Oh
soon as he
my
hits the
goodness.
ground, the leg damage. His legs were orange core, both deep orange core on that one.
I mean, the
And I guess it
jumping off
just
was
enough
definitely
damage.
a ballsy maneuver, and I'm betcha he wishes he could have taken that one back. But, I guess knowing that now, we were probably giving the Blackjack a little bit too much credit because the shots on the legs
Other
were
shots
so
to those
good.
legs would have killed him.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
looking at Odin Steed now. He is incredibly hurt. There's the stick Nova. And then Independent has no ammo, but he's still got 5 small pulse lasers. He can still do quite a bit of damage. So I don't think it was looking as bad as I was originally calling it. But the big thing, look at that Blackjack. You see that and you're like, oh my god, he's so goddamn fresh. But there's the awesome shots at the leg. That was fantastic. Just putting those shots on the leg. And they didn't leg him here. I'm pretty sure they hit the wrong leg.
Yeah.
Both legs go red. Odin goes down. Both legs bright red. The Blackjack swings around and then makes the ill-fated decision to try and jump down to get the final hit. It looks like there might have been an airstrike there to do a little bit of damage too. And then he kills himself on the jump. What a way to finish a crazy brawl. Like, that was just a roller coaster brawl. Up and down, all over the place.
Yeah.
I couldn't have predicted that one from the start. I mean, I thought I was on the right track saying that was going to go in favor of Nightscorn because of how fresh that mech was, but those shots were expert into the legs, and that definitely made the difference.
Yeah, those were... I think the difference there, if Jamie had survived that fall, or if he hadn't taken that leg damage from the fall, it would have come down to, could he get the shot off on Odin Steed's torso and basically strip most of his weapons, or would Odin have gotten the shot on his legs first at that point? Especially with the spread, even though I think they were using Artemis, I'm pretty sure they were using Artemis on those Timberwolves. Even just with the spread using Artemis on the Timberwolf, just the SRM spread enough that he would have hit both legs there and easily killed in one shot. So I think Odin had the advantage simply because, if I remember correctly, he would have had to have removed 2 torsos, and Odin just basically had to get 1 shot on target, but it definitely would have been close. However, then we wouldn't get the enjoyment of an intense brawl ended by a little bit of a landslide on Frozen City.
So I'm going to go ahead and do a giveaway, our first giveaway. It's a little bit later than we normally do it, but this has been some pretty exciting action so far. Very even-looking match. Going to give away some premium time codes. So all you guys have to do is be active in the chat, and anybody who's been active in the chat within the last 10 minutes is eligible to receive something. So one thing that I have noticed so far is nobody's playing the cap game. Now, this is a complete difference from what we saw in the Division A match, between SJR and 228. They played the caps heavily, and even in some instances won on caps. These guys are opting to go heavy brawl straight up. Now, here's the question then. Both teams seem to be playing the same game. They both have the same idea. Yep. There's no problem with that, because obviously it's working for one or both teams or something. But the question is, if one team was playing the caps and one team was brawling, who would you see winning here? We haven't seen that at all yet. So who do you think would come out ahead in that situation? Let's say we took like a SJR or 228 versus an Isengrim or Nightscorn, and SJR planned for the longer cap game, and Nightscorn planned for the straight up brawl. Would you see just a massive shoot down at range, just completely annihilating the brawl deck as they come in, or are they strong enough to survive that, especially with 12-man, close the gap and finish it off? Well, I guess in that instance I would say they wouldn't be playing the cap game anymore. You play the cap game when you realize there's going to be a little bit of a stalemate, and when you know that there's a brawl deck coming in, you play the brawl, and you don't worry about caps at that point. You recall any lights that you sent out to cap anything, and you go straight up brawl. I guess that's...
Yeah, I think it's tough to say, because I do think it's map dependent. What we've seen, Canyon Network, and both teams actually went range there and just wound up brawling. We've seen River City, which was the one that we've seen a trading cap game happen for SJR versus 228. And in that case, it was really a poke deck versus a brawl, and obviously the brawl won. This last one was 2 straight brawl decks. It's, I think it's just so map dependent at this point, but that's okay because it gives some more options than what just skirmish does. So and I want to jump in here real quickly before we do this drop and say that was the greatest end of game chat timing with the "Look Ma, I'm on TV," right as the blackjack falls off the cliff, lands, legs himself, game over. Whoever chatted that for Night Scorn, way to go. I think that was Night Scorn. It might have been ISEN. Whoever chatted "Look Ma, I'm on TV" right as that game ends, way to go.
Well, we're going into Crimson Strait, 600 tons. I guess we're probably going to see a repeat. I mean, why broke? If it ain't broke, don't fix it on the blackjack front. We are seeing Isengrim going with the BJ3 deck again. BJ3 and Hellbringer, the exact same thing they did over there on River City. Here's the question. Did they learn from their mistake? Are they going to try and keep their distance a little bit better? I don't see any scouts yet again. However, we are seeing something different from Night Scorn now.
Yeah, they are going with more of a long-range poke. I'm seeing large pulse. I've seen a couple ER larges, actually, so this is a little bit of a different approach for them. And it looks like they are moving for the island. They do have some Arctic Cheetahs with small pulse lasers running around here, so they're going to give us a little bit of some scouting in their advantage there. Let me see if I can find this ER large boat. Yeah, quick draw 5K with 4 ER larges. Again, it's not a hard mech to choose at that point, but it definitely looks like Night Scorn has decided to take 3 Arctic Cheetahs and play the cap game, and then kind of sit at more of a range deck. So Isengrim's going to have to counter this somehow, and I don't think they know it yet. But this will be interesting to see how they make that play.
Well, they don't have Epsilon yet. Night Scorn is sending one of their guys near Epsilon, probably thinking, okay, maybe I can snake it. But he just spotted Isengrim's main body there and is smartly falling back. He's going to concede Epsilon to them. But Isengrim is not worried about Epsilon right now, so I was just saying how we saw brawl, and here we go. We've got a completely different style of game now. But with that said, Isengrim is not worrying about the caps, and I'm thinking Night Scorn is seeing that, and maybe they anticipate a brawl coming in here. They might be talking about it, saying, okay, how can we get in on them? What are they doing? And we might see a charged brawl with the BJ3s.
And at this point right now, Night Scorn has Overwatch. They've got an Arctic Cheetah. Armitage is sitting on top of the hill in Charlie 4, Charlie 5. And it looks like he is looking around. He sees most this. Likely has identified
he
them.
Sees this coming. Yeah. That Overwatch
yeah, he
on
has
that hill
definitely
over
identified
there
them.
Is so powerful. He can see this entire movement, and he's making the call. And as we see, Night Scorn is reacting
Here comes
to it,
Night Scorn
and
moving
they are shifting.
Towards Charlie 2 on the edge of the island. There's some decent terrain here for a water position to be able to react to that Bravo 1 push.
It's important for Isengrim to know that their movement is not obscured in any way, shape, or form when the other team has scouts and they've sent them up on that hill. So everything that Isengrim is doing as of right now is known to their enemy, and that could be extremely dangerous. But shit is about to get really, really real here, and here we go. So they are charging in, and they are going right into a perfectly laid out firing line, and they have some Arctic Cheetahs already engaging on the rear, like
they
instantly.
Are putting a wicked amount of fire on that quick draw, though. He has already cored CT.
And they do kill him first. The Hellbringer does go down in stride, though, so lots of pulse lasers going off back and forth. So, you know, the biggest difference here is Isengrim is spreading out enough to be able to have everybody shooting at the same time. That is important compared to what we saw last time. But the blackjack does go down for Isengrim, but we're seeing a lot of very hurt mechs on the Night Scorn side. This is going to be pretty close so far.
These Arctic Cheetahs here for Night Scorn are just wreaking havoc on Isengrim at this point. They have no counters to them.
Yeah, they have no light mechs of their own, so Isengrim is focusing on trying to take down the main body of Night Scorn as quickly as possible so then they can focus on the lights, but that could be their downfall. If you continue to ignore these Arctic Cheetahs that are just coring you in the back repeatedly, unopposed essentially, that's going to be brutal. I mean, you have no lights, you have no anti-light capabilities, nobody's even looking at them, and look what you got right here. This is just a complete slaughter. The guy can just systematically go from mech to mech. Now he's being engaged, but he took out 2 mechs before even shutting down and giving up an arm. And that is going to be the downfall of Isengrim, not having those anti-lights, and a really good deck choice splitting between the heavy quick draws and the Arctic Cheetahs on a tonnage drop. And you know what? You look at a tonnage drop, there's not really an excuse not to take Arctic Cheetahs. It gives you 5 extra tons for a very powerful mech, and it allows you to bring something stronger. And the quick draw is at the top of my screen for a reason. It is another very meta mech, and it shined right there. I mean, it really...
I want to take a look at how those Arctic Cheetahs did here at the end of match screen. Let's just pull up.
I'm sure they have most of the kills.
An Arctic Cheetah Lance here. 4 Arctic Cheetahs. The lowest damage was 212. The highest was 327. So very even across the board. 1 kill, 1 kill, 2 kills, 1 kill. So that's 5 kills for 4 mechs, and they were all light mechs. I'd say that's a pretty darn good trade.
I mean, we saw it, like, not only did...
And only one of the Arctic Cheetahs died.
Not only did the Night Scorn Arctic Cheetahs do a lot of work in the battle, but they were right there at the very beginning. They because of the vision, they knew where Isengrim was going. They knew where they were going. So they were able to move up to the front lines, almost knowing that they weren't even going to get shot at, which was an accurate representation. They got right up in there, and as soon as Isengrim called the charge, they were immediately putting small pulse fire on target.
Yep. Yeah, I think that comes back down to the deck composition not allowing for Isengrim to have information on what the enemy's doing. And this is what now the second time we've seen. Both times Isengrim has lost a match on River City and now on Crimson Strait. It's really... in a large part due to a lack of information. They have no idea what the enemy team is doing at this point. With that water strat that they did around the back Alpha line through Bravo line, without lights and without anyone in the city, how do you know what's going on? They clearly knew the setup. They moved up to that initial hill by the side tunnel and clearly knew that the majority of the mechs were going island. But beyond that, they said, okay, they're at Island, and they had no idea where all 12 of their mechs were, unless they just assumed all 12 were at Island. And they had no idea that there were light mechs just standing there watching every move that they made. I mean, it's tough to do that.
If you don't have light mechs of your own to go flush out that mountainside, you know, that guy can just sit there unopposed. The only disadvantage to that guy is he has a longer distance to run to join the fight. But I'm sure he started down. He might have stayed up there and called exactly when the charge was happening, or he might have been like, okay, well, we know what they're doing. I'm going to go get in position.
Yeah.
And those lights...
I mean, those Arctic Cheetahs were waiting right at the city edge. And when they came around Bravo 1, I mean, they were waiting right at the city edge, kind of behind some of the rocks. And they were just letting Isengrim get into the fight, and then they just came right up behind him. And that was devastating. Unfortunately, and Isengrim had no answer. They could not answer, because as soon as you try and we saw it at the end of that stream, we had mechs trying to fight the Cheetahs, and as soon as you turn away, now you got Thunderbolts and Quick Draws shooting you, which, pick your poison there. I mean, do you want to get torn apart at range by large pulse Thunderbolts and things, or do you want to get, ripped to shreds by small pulse Cheetahs?
Yeah, and I have a feeling, Isengrim knew that the Cheetahs were there. It's not that they didn't know.
Yeah.
I think they thought that they could use their massive amounts of large pulse lasers to quickly dispatch the Night Scorn mechs. I didn't get a chance to really see. I have a feeling the hurt Night Scorn mechs probably backed away and were able to preserve themselves because they had a little bit more cover to work with because they were the initial firing line. We did see a Night Scorn mech go down relatively quick, but at the same token, we saw a Hellbringer go down really quick for Isengrim. So when you're counting on having 12 medium mechs just pouring lasers down on a single target, you need to be up like 2-0 before you lose your first mech, or it's not working, and it didn't work there.
Yeah, and I think the first mech, really, if NS goes back and wants to take any sort of improvements, suggestions for improvement from what was a very decisive match, obviously not necessary, but I think the first mech they lost was a quick draw with 4 ER large lasers, and that's mostly because he was right up in the front in the water. So if they want to be picky, if you want to go back and say every game is an opportunity to improve, they probably would say something like, hey, let's get those Thunderbolts with the large pulse lasers up at the front and those ER large quick draws at the back, use that range advantage for them. But that's being nitpicky as all get out, because clearly that was a dominant strategy from step one, and from the drop deck, from the drop ship on, that was Night Scorn's game to lose, and they weren't about to lose it.
Absolutely. And I said at the very, very beginning that I thought this was going to be an incredibly close match, and I am not disappointed. We're sitting currently at 2-2 in favor of both teams. And so we're going down into drop 5, which we are taking seriously this time, and it is going to be a 4-4 2-2 drop on Tourmaline Desert. So out of everything that these guys have been planning, the real question here is, how are they going to bring this together? How are they going to outthink each other? Because a lot of this really has to do with outthinking each other. And, you can't... Yeah, I mean, the vision for Night Scorn on that last one was, in my opinion, the true victor. I mean, their position obviously is a very, very strong position, especially with large pulse lasers. I've seen that last season as well, standing out in the water. It's even more emphasized, in my opinion, on Conquest when you actually have a point there that you can defend. You have Theta there that you can shoot. It's visible from water. So, that was a strong position in Skirmish. Now it's an even stronger position in Conquest. So, they're able to just sit there essentially and say, bring it on, And so what would the counter to this be? Maybe ER large lasers, maybe coming in from a different angle, maybe splitting and having some harassment maybe from top deck, something like that. But the biggest thing is not giving away your entire movement and allowing them to prepare and acquire that position, setting up a firing line before you even poke your head out. And that vision was fantastic. And I don't know if maybe they weren't watching the top of the hill, maybe they weren't looking out for scouts, or maybe they said, fuck it, let's just try and see what we can do. Let's just brute force them down. Didn't work, unfortunately. And we'll see what they can fix going into the last map.
Yeah, it's been an interesting series here, right? Because I think you can point to a few things winning the match. I think the first match, Canyon Network, was really won by Isengrim taking their long-range deck and splitting it, and being able to take away the firing lines and force Night Scorn off of the hill. I think drop 2, you can say River City, it was won by the fact that Night Scorn was able to bring their brawl deck within range without Isengrim being able to get the intel that they needed to counter such a move. Drop 3 probably was the best match so far. It was obviously the closest match so far. And it's tough to really pinpoint what won or lost that game. So that's probably, out of these, the best. And drop 4, you can say Night Scorn having that intel ahead of time and Isengrim not having the same information, was the difference in that game, drop deck or not. So there you go. It's your infotech at work, folks.
I can't follow my own channel, Tolson. Jeez. I am giving away 3 one-day premium times. So instead of spreading 1 days around, I figure, okay, let's do a 3-day code. They don't have 3-day codes, so congratulations to Quick Strides. I'm going to give you 3 one-day codes, and you can just redeem them all at once.
Wow.
So
going 3 times
big show
as
right
many.
now. Yeah. So we'll do another drawing a little bit later, and then
codes,
and then ultimately at the end of the match we'll do a giveaway of a Mech Bay code as well. So But we are going to be heading shortly into Tourmaline Desert. Hopefully you guys are all enjoying the show. Definitely give me a follow. I'm going to be doing a bunch of these. So if you enjoy what you're saying, follow the channel, and it'll, let you know when I'm streaming again. But, I post up my matches that I'm shoutcasting on Reddit. I post them up on the forums, on the Steam community, on Twitter, all over the place. Thank you to PGI for posting this one on the front page. That's fantastic. I love having the exposure from that. So mad props to you guys. We still have a lot of viewers watching, and that's fantastic. I really enjoy doing this, and I'm glad there's a lot of people here that can enjoy watching it as well. Couple quick notes while we wait for this next match to start. I'm going to be doing a little bit more of an unofficial shoutcast, I believe, on Wednesday. It's going to be an MRBC preview shoutcast. We're going to test the new rules that they're working on for MRBC Season 7. So we're going to be seeing Intari Scorpions versus Steel Jaguar, if I'm correct. Yeah, I think SJR versus Intari Scorpions using 8v8, the MRBC rule. So if you like seeing a lot of different mechs, you're going to see a lot of different mechs on that one. So definitely come around to that one. That'll be really cool. Yes, MD, I want you to do that one too. I didn't tell you about it yet.
I'll be there.
But and then on the 23rd, the Silken is running a Clans versus Inner Sphere match. So a lot of clan mechs versus a lot of Inner Sphere. He wants to test who's the strongest. In the past, it would have always been clan, and we saw a lot of that in NBT. So we want to, post-patch, we want to see what the balance is like, and so we're going to see that in that. The big thing is that it's going to take the top players from the game. Like, these guys all volunteered their time. They're all going to be coming in, and they're going to be splitting up into two teams and showing us a hell of a time. So that's going to be some really cool stuff right there. It's not just a bunch of randoms. It's a bunch of really good players. So we are in Tourmaline Desert. I'm over here. The teams are correct. So blue is Night Scorn and red is Isengrim. So I'm over on the Night Scorn side, and we're seeing Black Knight, Mauler. What else we got? Blackjack, Wolverine.
And these are not, taking a look at this, these are not your usual range builds here.
Large pulse, medium laser.
Seen some Stalker 4 ends, Blackjack 3s, a lot of large laser builds.
Theta right away. They got all 4 lights on Theta immediately. I don't know where the Isengrim lights
the Isengrim lights are hanging out in Charlie 4, Delta 4. They've got some Oxides, Jenner 2Cs. Looks like they brought a bunch of SRM boats for their light mechs, and they brought a bunch of large lasers. Sorry, I didn't want to say the forbidden word there. A bunch of large laser mechs as their main body here.
Okay, so the Isengrim lights went over to Epsilon, but they didn't even step on the point. I don't think they wanted to let them know that they're there. They probably know that they're there now because the Night Scorn lights just went over and took a look at them. They're now going to recall and go take Epsilon now. But Night Scorn moved up, took Theta initially, and then backed up into defensive positions. I think once they see that somebody is capping Theta, they might step forward and start laying the pain down. But they are now conceding Theta to Isengrim. So the caps are going to go in favor, but here they go. Night Scorn is now moving up, and they're going to start putting their fire down on these exposed Isengrim mechs. So they conceded the cap early. The Night Scorn mechs, light mechs, went up and took Theta immediately, and then now it's up to Isengrim to go and take that point back. Now, one thing to note is Night Scorn didn't bother taking Kappa yet, so caps are now heavily in favor of Isengrim. But here we go. We got the light mechs coming around the backside of Isengrim, and they are mixing it up. All 4 light mechs are attacking and taking down Odin Steed in a quick draw immediately. As this is happening, Night Scorn is pouring over the ridge, and just they're laying tons of fire down on Isengrim. Where are the lights for Isengrim? They are now arriving to the fight after losing 3 mechs. They have just arrived and are starting putting fire down, and they are tearing up a Black Knight.
Man.
So let's see if they can start tipping things back in favor of Isengrim. But in the time it took them to get there, we got 5 dead Isengrim mechs, and they're getting slaughtered back here. That was just, that charge with the lights in the background from Night Scorn was fantastic. It was well timed, and the instant it happened, you saw Night Scorn mechs pouring over the ridge and just starting to completely decimate the Isengrim mechs that were at Theta. This straight up, I think, was an excellent strategy by Night Scorn. Well executed all around. I would be extremely surprised to see a comeback here.
Yeah, it looks
some
like
mechs are dying.
Night Scorn still has a brand fresh Mauler that's just now trying to get into the fight here, it looks like.
His Oxide just got legged. That's not good for him.
I do not think this is going to go well for Isengrim at all at the end here.
They are getting some kills, but those Oxides are starting to fall now. So, well executed, like I said, by Night Scorn. Immediately taking Theta, immediately conceding it, and baiting Isengrim to go take it back. And as soon as they saw Theta being captured, the Night Scorn lights swung around the right side, slammed into the backside of Isengrim. I don't think they ever had eyes on him before the first lasers were fired, and started wrecking a mech immediately. And as soon as that happened, the rest of their main body swooped over the side. So Night Scorn definitely used their lower tonnage mechs very well. They used that mobility to hit them on the flank extremely hard. And as I said before, the time it took those Jenners to get on target was too long. I mean, too many mechs were dead or severely injured by the time those guys came up. It's almost like they were watching and they saw, okay, well, we know where Isengrim's lights are, and now the Isengrim lights are capping a cap. Now it's time to go. That I think was won by the drop caller right there. Hardcore. I think both teams were shooting very well, but I think that was a drop caller victory right there. Well planned.
Yeah, just
and well
taking a look
executed.
at this, that Mauler Gas Guzzler and the Mauler, 0 kills, but 7 assists, 625 damage, just dwarfed anyone else's damage on the screen there. And we spectated him a little bit at the end, and his Mauler was fresh. I mean, the majority of his components, the paint was still drying on it. It was so fresh. That is a recipe for a disaster for Isengrim, especially because the fight came to Theta, and those light mechs, unfortunately, I think you could make the argument, and this is a very interesting argument to make, but you could make the argument that the difference between these two teams, at least from what we've seen tonight, is in the light mech piloting. I think everyone agrees that light mechs, generally speaking, are the hardest mechs to play in the game, especially to play competitively, to play well. Bandit just rigged his own giveaway, giving away premium time to himself. But
what is going on?
I mean, if you look at the games Night Scorn won, they won the second drop. That was about the only one where I don't think you can say the light mechs really made a difference. In the Crimson Straight drop, the one just before this, we obviously saw the light mechs providing the intel and just tearing apart Isengrim's firing line as they were engaged there. And then on this drop again, we saw the light mechs essentially do the same thing, but the difference here was Isengrim brought their light mechs around to the, essentially trying to get behind the enemy position. Night Scorn saw them, turned to engage, and at that point, those light mechs for Isengrim got the heck out of there when Night Scorn turned to engage, and they broke contact, which I think convinced Isengrim that Night Scorn was chasing them. Yeah. And so Isengrim moved up to Theta. Night Scorn was only like 500 meters away at that point. They just came right over the ridge and crushed them. I think Isengrim got convinced by their light mechs getting Night Scorn to turn that they could move up to Theta and still keep their range advantage.
Absolutely, but you know what? That's going to be the end of our exhibition match. I am going to be bringing the unit leaders or the drop callers into my TeamSpeak for a little bit of an interview afterwards. So definitely stick around if you want to hear from the horse's mouth. And I don't mean Odin's steed, of course. From a horse's mouth as to how this went and how they felt about it. So stick around, but that was a very close match. There's a lot of really strong gameplay from both sides, but this is essentially a scrimmage for these two guys, and so they're learning from this. They're trying new things. This isn't fully a reflection of what we will see in competitive MWO for the upcoming season. People are seeing what works, what doesn't, and so they could have been trying something completely off the wall. But the point is these teams are going to learn from this. They're going to come back. They're going to watch my shoutcast here. They're going to watch that overhead view, which is extremely helpful, and they're gonna learn something from it, and they're going to take that into the next season. They're going to take that into the PGI tournament, and they're going to learn from it, and they're going to execute very well, and we're going to see these teams again, I'm sure. I don't know if they're going to end up in the same division again, because there's a winner, and the winner typically moves up, but we don't know in MRBC what the divisions are going to look like yet. There's a very good chance, because they're so close to each other, that they might end up, and I really kind of hope they do, because I'd love to watch it again. I love watching teams that are very, very equal skill and on equal footing fighting each other, and that's some good stuff right there. So
yeah, and I think you could say these two teams, if we look back at last season in MRBC, they were in the same division. The difference between these two teams, 21 wins, 1 draw, 3 losses for Knightscorn. 20 wins, 1 draw, 4 losses for Isengrim. So they were separated by 1 win. And tonight, what do we see? The same thing, 3-2 decision for Knightscorn. I think these two teams are just about as close as you can possibly be.
Absolutely. So let's see if, apparently I'm supposed to say, and I probably missed this from earlier, but someone is gonna get El-Shaned. It's a joke. Deadfire. You're so funny, Deadfire. You're a funny man. I said it. If anybody knows Battletech lore, you probably know what that means. Alright, let's see if we can load up the team speak here with some team captains, and we'll do some talking. I will do a giveaway at the end of this little interview here for the Mech Bay and stuff. Also, before we get into the interview, one more thing that I want to throw out there, and this is something I've never done before, but a lot of you guys watching are competitive players. So I want to take this opportunity as a shoutcaster to try and leverage some of you captive audience to do my bidding.
And everyone leaves.
I think a lot of us competitive players can agree that we would like to see, if it's not some massive undertaking by PGI, we would like to see a lot of the old maps, the old Force Colony, the old Caustic. We would like to see a lot of the old maps in private lobbies for competitive purposes. I know I would love to see that. And a lot of people are like, yeah, that would be really awesome. But I haven't really seen a really big undertaking to try and convince PGI that this is something the community wants. I think a lot of times the competitive community gets a little bit drowned out by, all the stuff on the forums and all the, average players and stuff. And, there's a lot more of them than there are of us. So I want to try and see if I can rally you guys to go onto Twitter, message Russ, and say, we would like all of the old maps available in private lobbies. Just say that on Twitter to Russ, and I guarantee you he's going to listen to us. But he needs enough of us to say that to him. So go on Twitter, say, Russ, we want to see the old maps in private lobbies. The old Force Colony, the old Caustic, Force Colony Snow, all of these great maps that we enjoyed playing in a competitive scene that maybe weren't very balanced in, in public queues. And maybe they were better in Conquest than they were in Skirmish and things like that. So I don't think it's going to be too hard for them to do that. So if you guys could go do that, that would be fantastic. I know I'm going to be sending out the message. Let's see if we can hit them up as a community and have our voice heard. So I don't want to soapbox too hard. The other thing, too, that we'd be interested to see, and if it's not too much trouble again, how about having the CW game mode in private lobbies? Maybe a league could start and leverage the infrastructure for CW in private lobbies. That would be cool, we don't worry about the whole planets being taken thing. It's just pick four mechs, and fight each other, That could be cool. And I've already seen, there's drop ships in private lobby. I've seen a glitch once where somebody dropped in and they got to choose 4 mechs when the rest of us all had 1. That was pretty weird. But the infrastructure seems like it's there. If they could add that into private lobbies for us, That would be sweet. So let's go out there. Let's go to Twitter. Let's say, Russ, you tweet at Russ Bullock and say, we want to see the old maps in private lobbies. So let me go ahead and get these guys together here. Alright, let me make sure my TeamSpeak is nice and turned up here, because I'm sure we're going to have audio problems and people aren't going to be able to hear. Alright, somebody say something, please.
Hey there.
Awesome. So that's Philadelphia, and then we got Mech the Dane with us. You sound angry, Dane. I'm going to mute you on Skype. Go. You're currently muted, by the way, MD, in TeamSpeak. So, that was a close frickin' match. 3-2 in favor of Nightscorn. Another one slips away from you, Dane. How do you feel about that? I think we all know how you feel about that so far.
It's the opposite of a great feeling, Bandit.
The question is, have you learned something?
Yeah, you know, every fight, whether you win or lose, in a competitive match, you learn something, and that's the great thing about doing comp that I think some people don't realize who never do it, is that it's so much more than just a regular pug match, and there's so much more planning and coordination going involved, and you learn something about your team, and you learn something about the other team, and when they come together, it's like a gestalt kind of mix of angry men fighting, and you come away from it with a whole new perspective than you had before, and then you just take that to the next match.
Definitely. So, Philadelphia, how did you feel on this scrimmage here? How did your team feel? Did this go as planned? Have you guys learned anything from this?
Yeah, definitely. I think we learned that Canyon's not one of our strongest maps. Haven't lost to ISEN twice on it now, but you know, we definitely take away a lot of lessons when we lose or when we win, and it's a really nice, rewarding feeling when you put in a lot of work into these kinds of matches and you come out with the win.
For sure. So, Dane, go over with me. I don't know if you had a chance to kind of listen in on the stream or anything between matches or anything like that, but River City, you guys went with the BJ3 deck, completely mediums, and then you were countered, and a couple Hellbringers, and Nightscorn brought in basically a pure blackjack deck with the 1X's and stuff, closer range brawl style, and you went with the large pulses.
Yeah, there were some Stormcrows.
And some Stormcrows, definitely. So, was my assessment correct? Did you guys know that they were coming ahead of time, or did they kind of get the jump on you at Citadel?
At Citadel, I had one player. He's actually a guy that hasn't ever done comp with us before, and he said, "Hey, there's a guy over here," and then we're like, "Oh," and then all of a sudden there were a bunch of Stormcrows that are like, "Yeah, this is happening." So we didn't have much of a warning. Pretty much when we saw them is when we knew they were coming. We knew something was over there, but I had no idea what until they cleared that corner, and we saw a bunch of small pulse laser Stormcrows and other stuff charging right at us.
My Twitter is blowing up. Thank you to the community for taking what I said to heart with the, getting all of the maps in the private lobbies so we can really bolster our competition, the competitive scene on a lot more maps, a lot more things to choose from. I love seeing all these retweets and stuff like that. I really hope that he pays attention to this and makes something happen for us. I just wanted to interject in that because I love seeing my phone blow up. That's awesome. So, then we had, what did we have for Drop 2 here? Or Drop 2 was River City. So Canyon Network.
Canyon Network seemed to work really well for you guys, Isengrim. I want to jump in here. It looked like you had 3 blackjacks and a quick draw kind of moving away from your team, kind of down the other side of the map. to me, that seemed like it really put a lot of pressure on Nightscorn at the initial. Was that the plan, to have those 4 mechs just kind of be there to get some pressure on Nightscorn and kind of keep them from focusing too much on one side, or what was your intent there?
That was the intent. Funny story about Canyon Network. I actually dropped us on the wrong side. We practiced everything we were going to do on the opposite side of where we dropped, and then before the match I just had so much going on, I put us on the wrong side. And at the beginning I briefly freaked out. I think someone on my team was like, "So do we do the same thing?" And I yelled at him. I was like, "Of course we don't do the same thing, we're on the opposite side!" And staring at my map for like 30 seconds while I got shot, I think, by lasers or something. But that was the plan. The plan was to create areas or create angles of aggression from the sides, and that's exactly what we did. That, despite being on the wrong side, that's what that Lance's job was to do.
Yeah.
And it seemed to work very well for you guys, too.
You guys did a great job pressuring us. Interestingly, we had actually practiced for the bottom side on that map because we thought it was the worst. And then we completely didn't do what we had practiced. We had practiced when the right side starts to get pressured, we would all move left. And then we ended up pushing down into that low ground, getting surrounded. Not how we wanted it to work out.
I'm assuming you guys can kind of agree that low ground on Canyon probably hurts quite a bit. I mean, when you guys realized, okay, we're in the low ground, how did you try to counter it? Obviously it didn't work, but were you trying to kind of back up against the wall and just shoot anybody you could? Or what did you try to do to counter what was happening at that point?
Well, at first when we pushed into that low ground, we were going to try to hit those Banshees that were down by Epsilon. But I don't know, we just didn't get enough momentum going in that direction, and then we started to fall, and so then we just had everybody try to backpedal and put a little bit of range between, the guys that were shooting at us from every direction. I think we were starting to rally at the end, but we had lost too many mechs at that point.
So now let's talk about Frozen City Night, because that was a damn roller coaster right there.
That was a great match.
Dane, I'm assuming you had a pretty solid plan there, that it looked like you were trying something. What happened?
Well, they weren't at the position I was kind of told they were at. And so I ended up sending my light lance basically into a hornet's nest, and then it took everybody else too long to get involved, and it kind of derailed my plan, unfortunately. They were further off towards the east side of the map than we anticipated, and where I thought when I was making the calls.
So then you called the charge over, your Oxides and stuff engaged. The Stormcrow was with them as well, but and I guess they just weren't where you expected them to be. Were you thinking they were going to do Tactical Hill and that you were going to be able to just kind of plow over, but they were further down into the city than you anticipated? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Initially, one of my members told me Tactical Hill, so that's what we were running off of that assumption.
Gotcha. And that once again kind of shows the value of scouting in this game. That info wars that they always talking about. It really comes down infotech. It really just comes down to the pilot making a good, accurate call, and that can be the difference between life or death for a drop caller. Having to make a call based on the information is given. I've been on the same boat where I've been told something and that wasn't 100% true, and our team got completely decimated because of it, and I can definitely feel that. So the timings were definitely off. The Stormcrow goes down really early. The Oxides take a lot of fire, but your massive Atlas Lance gets in there and starts dealing some significant damage, and things were looking really good. Very good focus fire from Isengrim. Lots of mechs going down in quick succession for Nightscorn. They were pretty spread out throughout the map, So I almost called it right there. I almost said there's the dagger, but then we see the spread of the Night Scorn mechs actually started making your team kind of fragment and get into these little 1v2 fights and stuff. A lot of your guys were hurt but not dead, and then in those smaller fights, like the 1v1s and the 1v2s, they actually started going down, and it started swinging back into Night Scorn's favor. How did, your team speak sound during that, Dane?
Well, there was a lot of chaos, because you're exactly right. There were people above us, people below us, people in front of us, and we couldn't organize ourselves in such a way that we could counter push into them or push again, and that we had to split up because to ignore a guy would open up your back to them, and we just didn't know anymore where they were, and it forced us just to, like you said, break apart into multiple little alley fights.
And then, so, Philadelphia, like, when it looked like you guys were starting to bring this back, did you guys just start getting down to business, or how did that sound?
Oh yeah, the comms got a lot tighter real quick. I think towards the end there, we had about 12 people all shouting at Jamie what to do.
I'm sure that can get a little chaotic, too.
Yeah,
you might have stressed him a little too far with what happened at the end there.
Yeah, and that was certainly, I got to give massive credit to Odin, and I think that was independent in those Timberwolves focusing those small pulse lasers so well into his legs. I'm sure they would have rather have legged him with that last shot, but he ended up having both legs go bright red. He swung up top and then made that ill-fated jump down and ended up killing himself, which I can only imagine how he felt after that, but all those mechs were incredibly hurt. Dane was sticked. That could not have been closer, and it was exhilarating to watch.
Yeah, Jamie's new name tomorrow will be Jamie for Legged.
And then
now you guys have a memory that will last forever.
Yeah. So then Crimson Strait. Dane, did you have any idea that you were being watched the whole time?
Nope, no idea.
Are you gonna, from now on, look at the top of that hill to see a little head sticking up?
I still didn't until you mentioned it. I didn't know I was watched till this moment.
Yeah, they had an Arctic cheetah on top of the main hill watching your entire motion, and as soon as you guys balled up and as soon as you started moving to the peninsula, I watched all of the arrows for Night Scorn in unison shift to a new position. It was delicious, I would say, to watch, to see that coordination based on a single call from a scout, and everybody got into that new firing line, that receiving line, and you guys were made at that point, and you had no idea that they were up there, even till now, like you said. They were watching your entire movement the whole way, and so you committed around the side. They were all watching you as soon as you came around, and large pulse lasers versus large pulse lasers. Now, they had a mixture of quick draws, thunderbolts, and Arctic cheetahs, still using a lot of large pulses. But the biggest thing that I noticed right off the bat, was there a call made, Philadelphia, to get your cheetahs right up against the buildings, or was that just their natural instinct to be ready to receive already in their small pulse range right off the bat?
Yeah, there was a call for that. Boneface is actually usually our primary caller, but since he was in a light, he was mostly directing them, and I was calling for the heavies. So once we saw they were headed out that way, we had our lights get ready for the rear flank, and then we set up to receive them.
And as we saw, that could not have gone better for those lights. They were definitely a workhorse. Yeah, it was Isengrim went with the full 12 mediums. They clearly had planned to just tear down your mediums and heavies or whatever as quickly as possible, but no real answer to the light threat, and they were able to almost stand still and just unload small pulse after small pulse alpha strike into the rear of Isengrim. Dane, if you could go back, what do you think you would do differently on that one?
Well, I think we definitely should have dealt with those lights as quick as possible. Everybody should have got on them and just nuked them before we did anything else.
Do you
As
think
it was, they were mostly ignored. A few guys were supposed to deal with them, but there was just so much havoc that they pretty much had free range on the team.
if you had known that you were being watched, would you have still charged in, or would you have tried something different? And if you would have tried something different, what do you think you would have done? Like play the cap game, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's a safe bet to play the cap game in that situation. I kind of feel like I still would have charged.
Okay.
Right into the beast.
Throw caution to the wind. Just you basically would have paid more attention to the lights though on your way in, I'm sure.
Yep. That's it. I'll just do it again.
Do it again, but do it better this time. No problem with that. So, but yeah, that one definitely well executed though by Night Scorn, especially with those back cores and stuff like that. That was a really good job. So then finally,
pilots earned their pay on that one.
They definitely earned their pay on that one, both in the scouting side and getting those back cores, the immediate damage for sure. So then Tourmaline Desert, I said in my stream that this really seemed to be a win for the drop caller. Was this just completely accidental from you guys that it worked the way it did, or did you practice this ahead of time, Night Scorn?
We did practice it. We didn't foresee things going exactly that way. We had actually practiced from, this was another map, we had practiced the other side, thinking that that was the side we would end up with. But we did have a strategy ready for both sides. The push towards Theta was totally situational. Once we realized the lights were away and they were on Theta, we were right there and it was just go. The lights did a great job flanking.
And they did some massive damage when they did swing around. I mean, that was really well timed. As soon as they were in, you guys were pouring over the top, and I can only imagine how that was for you guys, Dane. Just was there calls to take care of the lights? I mean, what was your focus at that point?
Well, I think I made a miscommunication with my lights. I wanted them to be very close to the enemy main body, so if that happened, they could immediately be involved. But they were further away than I wanted them to be, and I think that was my fault. And so I called them to get in there. They weren't able to get in there, and at that point, I knew it was over. I was telling them, I was like, I know I shouldn't have gotten down, but I was like, all right, this is it, we're done. We've lost. And they're, focus this guy's side torso, fall back as best you can. And the lights are like, oh, should we come up and help you guys? I'm like, no, just keep killing who you can on the edge. We lost this one.
Well, bottom line though, I mean, this was a practice, so there's nothing really to get down about here, because we have the comp scene firing up and getting ready to go here come February, so this is all preparation for that, and hopefully everybody on both sides can come away from this event with more either confidence in certain situations or having something to work on in your practices and stuff like that. And thank you to both you guys for doing this. You guys have been fantastic, and it's been a pleasure having you both, and it was really thrilling to watch. I mean, it was super close. It was a very exciting match to partake and stuff. So definitely thank you to you guys. I hope you guys both learned stuff, and we'll definitely be seeing you guys again.
Absolutely, I had a great time, and these are really some of my favorite types of matches in the game, so really appreciate you setting it up and inviting us to do it.
Excellent, awesome. All right, well, oh, Jesus, Dane. I played your song, by the way.
My people call me. They call me back.
All right. All right. I just switched back to Skype MD. But thank you to all you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to be doing some more of these. Like I said, I've got a smaller shoutcast on Wednesday with two very good teams, SGR versus Untitled Scorpions, testing out the new MRBC rules. MRBC, I believe the signups are now open. Go check out the rule set. Go sign your team up. Go get a team together and play some comp. You know, get in there. Let's have some fun, and maybe we'll shoutcast you guys and stuff. But so I got Wednesday is going to be a trial run for that. 23rd, we've got Clans versus Intersphere with the Silken and a lot of really good players. So if you want to see some of the best players in the game all playing on the same team at the same time, that's going to be really fun to watch. I'll be showcasting that one as well. Keep your eyes out for future schedules. I've got my schedule down in my Twitch here. I have to add the Silken one in there. But, you know, I'll be posting stuff there, Reddit, on the forums. Hopefully PGI will still work with me if they're not mad at me now for spamming them on Twitter. You know, hopefully...
No longer.
You guys suck. We don't like you anymore. But, you know... And definitely get on Twitter and go spam Russ. Regardless, we want to see those old maps in private lobbies. But as for you guys have all been fantastic. The stuff I've been seeing in chat has been great. A lot of good conversation and stuff like that. We're going to do one more giveaway. I'll be spitting that out here off air. But congratulations to whoever wins. We'll be getting a mech bay. And definitely catch you guys again later.
See you guys.
I need another heavy. I've got TB and a quick draw.
I want to get fairly tight to it. Now, anybody who's going to be working range, I'm going to need you to fade right on this. If anybody's running short, we're just going to stay towards the top of the call there if we're going to come at them.
I have you in the Griff. Griffin.
Sounds good.
Well, that's the thing. We got to get to brawling range, so I may be moving us right up to the hoop if we have to.
Wolverine nach Charlie 4.
It's fine, chill the f*** out, man, it's fine, it's just a 5-star.
Komm, Leute, redet miteinander.
15 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't die. 15 seconds, don't die.
Guys. 3, 2, 1.
Charlie Jar, CT, yellow. Okay, go for Charlie, see if we can get it.
There. To your left, there's there. Sorry, Richard. So, jetzt guys, hinter die Indie-Pocken.
Mediums be prepared to pull back E40 towards the E5 border. On my mark.
Left side, come on! Like now, I need strikes on OP barrels. Wire strikes up.
Die Hauptgruppe rechts, Uferlinie.
They have 3 mechs sitting on the left side when you pass over.
Overheating is bad.
Both legs on the Griffin. Get the Griffin. Woo! Sorry about that. That was such a
That's right. I'm gonna spawn Lance you guys in Charlie, Lance you guys in Bravo. That's B2C1.
This third drop is 2 lights, 2 mediums, 2 heavies, 2 assaults.
What's in die Breite? Zieht in die Breite.
Lights, watch our backs. We're gonna about base and take up position in Bravo 6.
Ja, kurz Aufschaltung, Delta 4, 3 Stück, 2 Mediums, ein Light, wie ich es richtig gesehen habe.
Make a firing line.
C4 Tactical Hill, boys.
Fox.
Lauft unter ECM, hab 2 durchlaufen, 10, Bravo 4.
And get ready to hit people coming from our right.
Charlie on the left, Charlie, a Hellbringer on the left.
Okay, let's group up towards the left. We're gonna press through Bravo 3 to Bravo 4. I think they're kind of spread out.
Check yourselves, make sure you've got, UAV cool shot.
Here they come, they're pushing hard, guys.
Decro. Tez on.
Go. Oh, got a contact here, Bravo 3.
Nice, Marshall. I'm on Delta Griffin.
Well, if you cross it then, get in their face.
They got a highlighter, they just pushed up on Theta. We need help on Theta. Up on Theta.
Yep, that's the noise. Go. Let's finish this.
Full pressure, guys, full pressure. They're down low. They're down low in Charlie 3.
Get the f***ing arm, Jackson!
Jackson, cool shot. Cough. I got him.
Okay, go,
B3, go. Echo, go. Get over on your medium, guys. Get Echo Stormcrow.
God, I suck as a pilot, but thank I packed my skill. I'm sorry. sorry that you died, sweet girls, but we will send a reasonably nice letter to your family.